Hi, everyone. My name is Heather. Thanks for joining us today. I'm the Astro Board President, and this is an expert Q&A panel discussion we're going to have this morning to talk about smart home solutions. So we're joined by Buster from Minut. Do you mind waving, Buster? You'll hear from him more in a minute. And then Jim from PointCentral. And then lastly, Michael from NoiseAware. So we'll give them the floor in a few minutes to talk about who they are and a little bit about their companies before we dive into the questions. Also, for those of you that are new to Astro and new to how we run these expert Q&As, feel free to chat throughout the entire session. That chat window is open, and we'd love to make this as interactive as possible. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners, we're a not-for-profit professional society focused on bringing education. Oh, hey, Ria, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. You're familiar with who we are. It's great to see some familiar faces on the call. And but again, for those of you that don't know us, we are focused on professional development and education for short-term homeowners. We think about homeowners of short-term rentals in three buckets. One is they're in the stages of investing, and they want to learn more about how to buy a short-term rental income property. The second bucket is an owner who has one or more homes and is self-managing, running it themselves. And the third is someone who has a home but is looking for property management support, hospitality management companies to run it for them. So our organization supports education for all types of short-term rental, vacation rental homeowners. And with that, I'm going to share my screen. We'll dive into the deck and the discussion. And if you aren't talking, maybe I can just ask you to mute. It looks like someone chatted here that there might be some background noise. And Buster, Jim, and Michael, can you see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. So the discussion, we're gonna really try to dive deep on, pros and cons, smart home solutions. As with all technology, it can be overwhelming, but we know that technology can improve your home safety, efficiency, return on investment, and then also guest satisfaction, potentially helping you even grow revenue and increase average rates. So with that, we're going to learn more about who our panelists are, these thought leaders in the industry. We're so excited they're here and participating today. So Buster, let's start with you and talk about Minut.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having us, for having me and on the panel and the rest of us. It's great to be here. My name is Buster Bark. I'm head of business development at Minut, and Minut is a smart home company. We do mainly noise monitoring, but a smart home sensor that you install in your vacation rental or in your house, in your apartment, and it helps you know what's going on when you're not there and when you have guests. So everything from party prevention to being a security system in between bookings when the property is vacant, to letting you know if the temperature is too high, too low, if the AC is blasting, or if a window is left open. So it's sort of giving you this this privacy safe, privacy minded intelligence about what's going on in your rental property. And Minut is a Swedish company from the start. Myself, I'm from Stockholm. The founders came from Google and Apple before, and they started this 2014. And since then, we've been working both within the short-term rental industry with property managers, with property management systems, but we've also been working with insurance companies and across Europe. So it's very much focused on security, privacy, and preventing parties and damages in vacation rentals. The device itself it works all over the world. We have a presence in the US and in the EU, and are expanding as well in some other countries. So super exciting to be here today. Looking forward to answer any questions, and it's also great to be here with James and Michael from NoiseAware and from PointCentral. So I'll with that I'll pass the baton over to I don't know, Heather, you can tell me who's going next.
if I could clarify maybe one question for you, Buster, before we move on. So you
Yeah.
mentioned working with insurance, which we do talk about later in the presentation today.
Yeah.
Are there other integrations you want to mention, or mobile type applications, anything like that you want to add?
Not at. I mean, we're working with proper insurance and within the short-term rental industry. Those are we're adding a lot of new integrations as we go at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the one that's we'll probably get to that one pretty soon. But yeah, that's mainly around damages and in terms of party prevention. That's when we work with insurance companies like that.
Okay, sounds good. James or Jim, why don't we go to you next? PointCentral.
Great. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Okay, I didn't know if I was on mute. Well, again, thanks for inviting me. My name is James Netzer. I'm the Director of Sales here at PointCentral. And PointCentral, we are a smart home automation company. We've been in business for over a decade. We are a subsidiary of Alarm.com. Alarm.com is a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And Alarm.com is the world's largest smart home platform. We manufacture most of our own hardware, and we're the software behind most of the major security companies around the United States. And PointCentral, the subsidiary, is focused exclusively on the MDU, the short-term rental, and the long-term vacation, short-term vacation market. We deal a lot with property managers, but through our extensive network of dealer partners, we're also able to support smaller individual RVOs, if you will. We have a history of innovating in residential since our inception. We have the broadest array of integrations with the leading property management softwares and complementary software partnerships. We're a sustainable, stable partner. We take data security and privacy very seriously. Our platform runs on a 100% cellular network. Instead of Wi-Fi, we believe that cellular is more reliable, provides enhanced security. And we have an extensive network with the support of Alarm.com of about 1,000 direct employees to provide the support and maintenance that we think is necessary. Thanks.
So Jim, just a few clarifying questions for you. You obviously you mentioned a lot about just security, kind of using that term broadly. I imagine that it ties to temperature, or can you kind of go through a little bit more specifically the capabilities of monitoring of the device?
Yeah, so in regard to our security, what I meant was, in that regard, had to do with, I mean, we've all heard the horror stories about companies that have gotten hacked and people have gotten access to their cameras and so on. And because we use a 100% cellular network, we take it very seriously of what we call military grade encryption, and we take that privacy and security and reliability very, very seriously.
And is your the hardware that you provide, is that a device? Is that also a camera? Can you talk a little bit more about what you actually provide versus what would be considered integration?
Yes, the hardware we provide, we have smart thermostats manufactured by Alarm.com. We have door, window sensors. So, for example, it can be our software can be programmed that if a sliding glass door is left open because the guest put the air conditioner on 60 and decided to leave that sliding glass door open all day, which I'm sure many on the phone have experienced, running up that energy bill. It can be programmed to adjust that thermostat after a certain period of time. We work right now exclusively with Yale smart locks because they're the ones that we believe we certify as being the most secure and reliable. So we work with Yale locks. We have our own thermostats. We do image sensors, cameras. Water detection also has been very popular lately. We can provide a notification if our sensor detects any moisture. Most owners put those near a hot water heater, maybe under a sink. And, you know, I'm sure we all worry about, you know, our property being unattended, or if a washing machine hose broke or a water heater goes, how expensive that can be. We provide automatic notification to the owner or the property manager with leak detection. We integrate with Echo and Alexa and Amazon and all of those devices. And there's a host of more devices that we have that I didn't mention.
And so it sounds like your proprietary product could come in the form of a few different devices.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
and you know, in the short-term vacation industry, you know, we have many devices, but primarily, I would say the ones we sell most often are, you know, we put a cellular hub in the home with a smart lock, a smart thermostat, and you know, a water sensor are primarily what we sell in this particular short-term vacation vertical.
Okay, thanks for that. That was really helpful, Jim. And then Michael, let's hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. I appreciate you having me here, and love what you guys are putting together with Astro. It's definitely important to have this representation across the board for the industry, both the single owners and adding the educational piece. Unlike Jim's company, we are not publicly traded. Maybe one day, but NoiseAware is the only privacy-safe noise monitoring tool that protects your home inside and outside. And we'll send real-time alerts to your phone through text message or an app, offering proactivity against any form of escalation. We've protected over 800,000 reservations and have been proven highly successful at eliminating neighbor issues and house parties. We were founded as the result of an Airbnb house party 5 or 6 years back that resulted in 15 noise violations and 2 cease and desists on the property. It's stories like those that are industry headlines continuously, and we've certainly seen a spike of that, even more so during COVID than 2019 levels. And those black eyes are what drives bad regulation for the industry and prohibits what we all can do with our properties and our rentals. And regulation is the biggest existential threat to all of our businesses within the short-term rental space. And that's why Vrbo has decided to partner with NoiseAware to help solve that problem specifically and drive the industry forward, being better stewards in our community, to our neighbors, and to our homes. Partnerships like ours with Vrbo really help change the discussion at City Hall. And it moves from talking about all the problems that exist around short-term rentals, primarily noise, parking, and trash. And it changes that conversation to be, we know we can solve noise. Noise is a leading indicator of property damage. Our partnership with Proper Insurance has been running for about 4 years now, and we've seen a 30% reduction in damage claims with owners that use NoiseAware. And so when you can take those solutions to City Hall, you're really going to be able to change the conversation with regulators and even your neighbors.
So a few questions for you, Michael. Yeah, the Vrbo partnership is really interesting and fairly new. Is that correct?
Yep, it launched about a month ago.
I remember kind of seeing a release on that. And does that is that partnership also like an integration, or is that more of just a business partnership? Can you say more about it?
I can say some about it and not everything. So yes, it is. It solves a couple problems. One, the COVID house party narrative has really been strong since lockdowns, and humans are innately social creatures. And when you shut down restaurants and bars and nightclubs and sporting events and all these gathering areas, people have turned into short-term rentals for their social activity. And we've seen a rise almost 50% of noise activity in rentals year over year. I don't see that trend changing too much anytime soon. It's really going to take lockdowns being lifted and people feeling comfortable gathering in public social places again before that narrative changes. And that's why it's important for Verbo. And then the second phase is all of those parties and negative headlines do lead to regulations. And we as an industry have to organize. And that's why I'm a huge fan of what you guys are putting together and building out. Because the stronger we are as a industry as a whole, both locally, regionally, and nationally, we can really educate our communities and our community leaders that short-term rentals are a good thing for their communities, and there are tools to help solve the problems that are going on.
So if I just to repeat that back, what I heard you say about the Verbo partnership is it's more of a business partnership, or maybe you're committed to supporting the legislative regulatory conversations, but there isn't really a technology integration at this point. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. It's more of like a business relationship type thing. Got it. That's helpful. And yeah, interesting your stat on like 50% increase in noise, which, I just have to kind of ask, right? Because if occupancies have gone up, obviously noise goes up from like 0, right? If that's your baseline because your home was unoccupied. But there's obviously a measurement of noise that's considered like disturbance levels, right? So that difference too. And what
exactly.
that means.
Our platform is customizable based on time of day and noise risk tolerance. And that stat is exceeding the noise risk tolerance.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. Okay, yeah, it supports the narrative, right? More people gathering and more noise due to that. So thank you for that. And if there's other questions for the audience, from the audience as we go through, again, encouraging those online to chime in. So the first section is integrations. And I think, Jim, you kind of talked about this a little bit, with Alexa. And this screen we just want to kind of illustrate to set the stage, right? Because people are building tech stacks, right? And smart home keyless entry devices can be connected in some ways or not, where it makes sense. Like, is it important for any kind of smart device to know when you have an arrival or a departure? So you can see here, you've got that property management system, in the middle, revenue management systems and all these different functionalities. What's interesting about building a tech stack is that there's also this idea of integration to a channel directly, where we see some, and I know we don't have anyone who's purely focused on the line to this aspect of keyless entry or on the panel, but just wanted to show how complex kind of building a tech stack can be and spend some time talking with you about it. So maybe we'll start with you, Jim. Question: what are the different opportunities for building a tech stack and automation for my business? As a short-term
I think that a couple of things, as you alluded to in the previous slide, with PointCentral as an example, our platform can be used, if you have just a few properties through our dealer partner, you can control those homes through the use of our platform, right? You can control the locks, you get notifications, you'll know who's coming and going from your property. If you use a cleaning crew, there'll be notifications of when they leave the unit. You'll know when it's cleaned. You'll get an email notification or a text notification for all of those events, so you'll know who's coming and going. We integrate with most of the short-term rental PMS softwares that are out there, which means for the owner, right? You can stay. You're not logging. You don't have to log into my platform. You can stay in your PMS platform, and through the reservation process, the guest will be notified through a custom welcome email that you can send them, letting them know that their unit is ready, letting them know what their 6-digit door code is, and that the unit's available for them to arrive. That also, that property management software, many of them, then integrate with the online travel online agencies, the OTAs, which also then is an integration. So you're still in that software, and all of that's happening integrated. If you use a cleaning software product like Breezeway, for example, we're integrated with them also for cleaning, maintenance, and to expedite turn day. So that's an example, I think, of tech stack where you could take a smart home platform that's integrated with a PMS platform, that's integrated with an OTA, that's integrated with a vendor, and they all work in unison and create a lot of operational efficiency for the owner.
Yeah, it can be really complex for sure. What you just explained and all those different integrations. And so thinking of short-term rental homeowners, who, you know, for some of these, right, the property management systems, you're dealing with large portfolios and there's kind of a different level of expense. Maybe thinking in those terms, Buster, do you want to respond next to this one?
Yeah, sure. I think what Jim said really is spot on, and in terms of how you build this tech stack is important to remember to look at like where you're starting and what you got already, and when you build on it, make sure that you have sort of a plan to going forward. I mean, a lot of our companies, NoiseAware, Minut, and PointCentral, they work in many different ecosystems, and some will be the same, and some will be different. But I think it's important to see like what is your specific need, and what systems are you using today? What are you happy with? What did you like? Is there something that you can't live without? Some specific feature that you need, and then sort of work out with these companies that you want to work with. In this example, smart home sensors. You know, how do they fit into what you're doing today? If you're starting from zero, well, then obviously you got a little bit more freedom, and you can start with start from scratch. But it's a good idea to talk to PointCentral, talk to NoiseAware, talk to Minut, and see like what's the companies that they integrate with, and how can they help? Because a lot of times, like we work with insurance companies, we work with smart lock companies, and with cleaning companies like Breezeway, like Jim mentioned. So it is a complex, but like it's not that bad. It sounds a little bit more difficult than it is maybe. Once you start looking around, like a lot of these integrations make a lot of sense, and that's ultimately what they're there for, to make your life easier. If you implement a tech stack that makes your life harder, then something's wrong. I mean, this is supposed to make your life easier. It's supposed to save you money, and it's supposed to maybe even in some cases increase revenue. So yeah, just starting from where you're standing, and then gathering the information to learn like how the different systems are connected. And then while you do that, there's a lot of like fun stuff you realize along the way, around things like how you can connect things that you previously didn't think that were possible to connect. There was a question from Julia in the chat, which was about if Minut can tell an AC. As I mentioned, you could tell if the AC is on blast or not. And it's an excellent question, Julia. And unfortunately, I can't give you a specific answer, but it is quite a common feature request, and we're looking into to be able to do that either through an integration with say a thermostat or directly with the AC. So that's also something that we're working on. We hear that a lot from companies, and that's the great part. You find you have a specific problem, and there's most likely a technical solution. I don't know, PointCentral maybe already have something that would sort that problem out. But yeah, currently we don't have a direct integration, but definitely a great question, and a really good idea. So yeah, it's definitely on our radar.
Yeah, I would say certainly both of those make a ton of sense. And Buster, building on what you said, it really matters where you are today. And if you're a single host just listing on Airbnb, try and find technology that solves your biggest pain point. If you hate talking with guests and constantly messaging back and forth, look into something like Smart B&B or Yada. These are technologies that can be leveraged and build AI around responding to guests' most common requests. The next piece is access, and what Jim at PointCentral, apparently Siri thinks I'm talking to her. The next thing is access, and she's still doing that. And when you can have the ability to get your guests into the home and know there's not going to be any issues of finding a key or the code's not working or anything like that, that's a horrible guest experience. The next thing is distribution. If you're only marketing on Airbnb, stop. Market on multiple platforms. And there's channel managers that can do this for you. And there's platforms like Future Stay or IGMS. On Future Stay, if you drop your Airbnb link into their platform, it's going to build you listings and push your listings out onto multiple different channels. And then the last piece is the smart home, what Buster built, what NoiseAware builds, figuring out what problems exist that are the biggest issue for you and your property, whether it's a thermostat in South Florida because AC is expensive, or if it's noise because your neighbors are such, they're very sensitive and your house may be prone to noise or parties. Figure out what that first step is for you, and then figure out that next step. Adopting all the technology across the landscape in a short amount of time is going to be challenging. And so much of it, there's like 120 PMSs that exist out there. Nobody's integrated with all of them. So finding who works with who is going to be important, and then who can work lone standing. It doesn't matter what platforms you use. Both of those are going to be important.
No, thanks for that. Yeah, and sticking on the smart home side of things here, what are some other smart solutions that are possible? Really trying to open up folks' minds to, like, one that we haven't talked about is maybe being able to control and monitor a pool or spa temperature and, control that remotely. Are there other examples or more interesting kind of smart home solutions that we haven't talked about yet? That just to open folks' minds to, like, the possibility for what they could do.
Yeah,
through tech.
I'd say there's a lot of them out there, and they're all in various stages of capabilities or functionality, really. There's certainly plenty of pool sensors. There's water leak detection. There's even smoke detection in terms of, like, I forget the company. Buster, maybe you know who they are. But Fresh Air, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They do like organic, isn't that organic compounds more like detecting, so it reacts to particles in the air that's in cigarette smoke and other hazardous materials as well. I think it's quite interesting what they're doing.
Like someone detects someone is smoking in a non-smoking home is more like that,
right.
Solving that problem. Really interesting.
And to Buster's point, it's organic compounds or organic materials. So weed or tobacco, things that are going to be.
Because smoke is always going to be tricky because it's smoke detectors. The optical ones all go on fire smokes from a fire, and that's a very thick type of smoke. Cigarette smoke and things that you would want to detect in a vacation rental or in your home that you're renting out, it couldn't be difficult. So I think, Fresh Air, I'm not sure exactly what's the latest sensor and the precision of it, but it's very interesting to have this type of technology that pinpoints certain aspects of certain problems.
And it's all going to get better. The industry as a whole is pretty new, and a lot of these technologies are proof of concept and then trying to develop from there. But I have a feeling Jim has a lot broader answer than Buster or I might have in terms of range of sensors.
Yeah, that was great. There's constant innovation, right? Sorry, go ahead.
I think, yes, PointCentral, we have a pool control device that can be, that works off our platform remotely, sends notifications, raise, lower temperature, et cetera. I think, to answer your question, what else is out there? We have an image sensor, which I think is pretty cool, which you can put in a home or, outside a home, for example, maybe in your off season, if you wanted to capture an image of someone that, walked through your yard or went up to the door. We have the doorbell camera that does the same thing. And then our latest, we have a water shut-off valve. So if there's a leak detected in the home, the main water supply to the house can be shut off. And we could also monitor the amount of water that's used. So, to answer your question, off the top of my head, you were kind of asking, what are some of the other cool things that are out there and to me, those are three of the latest ones, in addition to the noise monitoring, which I think is really cool too. I think those are the latest and greatest, if you will.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'm going to keep moving. We kind of started to touch on this topic too, right? Which is the safety, efficiency, and return on investment, because some of these can be pretty significant investments to buy, like maybe a one-time fee for buying the device or an ongoing monthly fee to maintain, and really trying to talk through how should someone determine what they should get, is getting it all really what they need. And, we tried to kind of list them here, right? Cameras, noise, door locks, water pressure, temperature monitoring. Then there's like the fundamental operations or equipment best practices, like having a fire extinguisher. And then kind of the benefits of being able to get an immediate alert and how that saves you, time of maybe something causing more damage, the risk and prevention, and then just in general cost savings. What types of smart home devices actually could I immediately see cost savings from? Maybe temperature being one, because you're able to reduce your monthly bill in a more immediate manner. But we just wanted to kind of dive deep on this and highlight some of these things related to safety, efficiency, and return on investment. So first question, do I really need all of these solutions to operate a short-term rental safely? And maybe Michael, will start with you.
Yeah, I think the answer is it depends. And in terms of safety things like fire extinguisher or CO2 detector, smoke detector, you should absolutely have any of those in your house regardless, in my opinion. But some states and some cities regulate the fact that you do. So those are must-haves. In terms of noise, locks, water, all these other sensors, it can be important. I would say start with what your biggest pain points are. If your guests are having trouble getting into the unit, then locks is a no-brainer. If your neighbors are complaining about noise, or you've had a house party before, or your city might require noise monitoring, then obviously the next thing you should look into would be noise monitoring. So it's really going to depend on the properties, and big single family homes and destination markets are probably quite different than a condo in an urban setting. And I'd imagine a lot of the listeners have a broad range of units, whether it's a ski home, an urban condo, a beach house. These all require different pieces of equipment that might be important and relevant. With NoiseAware, for example, condos are almost a must-have because noise travels so easily in condos. In destination, or rather single-family homes in urban markets, outdoor noise is a big issue. Anytime you've got neighbors and travelers next door and being outside, noise carries outside, and that's going to lead to problems, whether it's noise fines or violations. In Tahoe, for example, if you're in a hot tub past 10 p.m., the homeowner's getting a $1,000 fine and the guests are getting a $1,000 fine. So know your local rules and regulations. know what your property caters to. I wholeheartedly believe that noise monitoring is going to be not only a standard, but a requirement in many markets around the world for short-term rentals. But I think we're probably a couple years from that being broadly adopted wide standard, but we've certainly started to see it happening already.
Yeah, that was a great point about like identifying, what are the problems that you have, and so what solutions could help you with problems that you've come across already with the type of unit you have or the location of home. Buster, do you want to take this one next?
Yeah, sure. And I agree with Michael on the pain point there. It's super important, and I don't think you need all of these solutions to operate, but it definitely, if you do it right, it will definitely make your life easier. A lot of these things are also, it's a lot is in the preventative. You're putting preventative measures in, if it's a water leak sensor, or if it's a noise monitor. That kind of technology is like, okay, you hope you don't have that problem, but if you do, it's there for you, and it will save you a lot of money if something like that happens. And then when you look at smart locks, that's something that you're using on a daily basis, so that will also sort of affect the decision as well on which type of companies you might choose, and which type of technology you might want to start with. But obviously, if you have, as Michael said, if you have noise monitoring issues, then that's definitely that's what you should go for first. In terms of like security on our end, like if we've had customers that have had break-ins or things stolen in between, because when there's not a car in the driveway and there's an Airbnb sign up saying, this is an Airbnb, and some places you have to have a sign saying that this is an Airbnb, and then if there's no car there, it's very easy to see that, okay, this is a empty house. So that's when you'd use Minut to have an alarm, to have the alarm activated if someone breaks in. If that's happened to you and you have that issue, then obviously it's very clear. But if it hasn't, then hopefully you don't have to have it either. But yeah, so a little bit, it's good to have a think about you can stop a lot of things from happening by just implementing these technologies, and then you have the other technologies that are more like used on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, definitely, I think also in terms of the industry as a whole, what NoiseAware are doing, what PointCentral is doing, and what Minut is doing is also trying to help you guys as hosts to be and property managers to be to not only to comply with rules and regulations, but like if we can together use technology, we can help fight regulations as well, and stop them from being more limiting in terms of people's businesses. I mean, we're already seeing this in both Europe and in the US, where regulations are coming in and restricting, and that's a sort of a blanket approach, while technology is more of a targeted approach. So it won't only help your business, but it also helps the vacation rental industry at large. So yeah, that's
that's a really good point that kind of ties to that next question of all the benefits, and it's not listed here in the question, but the benefits to the industry overall by improving safety and kind of moving the whole industry, and then adding to the consumer confidence side of feeling safe when staying in a short-term rental. But staying on the time and money, kind of the investment, because some of these devices are more expensive than others. Let's go to you next, Jim, on what are the benefits to insurance or savings and approaches to kind of how to figure that out.
Yeah, so just real quick on your first question, do you need them all? I don't know if everybody needs all of them, but I think yes, that you need them. Here's why. So earlier in the year, we were one of the sponsors for a Focusrite survey, and they surveyed thousands of U.S. travelers. And here's one stat that I thought was really interesting, and it was that of all the U.S. travelers that considered a short-term rental, why did they not choose the short-term rental? And the 28% was one of the number one answers. 28% said that they didn't consider a short-term rental because they were concerned about safety. So, what does that mean? Safety, that I think my guess would be that has to do with keys, locks, etc. So I think right there alone is a stat that's pretty eye-opening. And I also think increasingly property technology is less really about it being an amenity now, and it's more about it being expected. So we also know from that survey that the reason people chose hotels over short-term stays, obviously this was pre-COVID, was not only the safety, but it was also guest amenities, right? So anything that we can do in the short-term industry to add amenities, I think will have a big impact. And as the other piece of that study showed that 18 to 54-year-olds now, believe it or not, are really the key demographic that really want and expect smart home. And by the way, they're willing to pay more for it. So I think that's key. And then, but to your second question, time and money and what's the ROI, right? So if you installed your typical lock and thermostat and hub in a unit, I think on average it would take you anywhere from a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes to do that. Maybe 40 minutes for the first one, but after that first one, you'll get the hang of it. I think it's pretty simple, about a half an hour. And then what's the ROI? I get this question a lot, and what I would say to a property manager or an owner is I would think about, what is it really costing you a year to deal with key management? What's it cost to rekey? What's it costing you in lost keys and driving keys to the unit? And are you what fees do you have set up today? And did you ever think about possibly charging for smart home based on the info I just shared? And if you had notification that a unit was ready early, did you ever think about charging for early check-in? And would that, would that whole guest experience lead to more bookings? And then I think the no-brainer at the end is that our smart thermostat, this isn't PointCentral's number, this is Energy Star's number, saves the average home anywhere between 9 and 23% a year. So if you think about what you're spending in energy, whether it be heat or air conditioning, and you could save somewhere between 9 and 23%, that would pay for the smart home solution and more. So if you have the savings from the energy management, if you were charging potentially a fee, there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice this, but this can actually turn into a profit center for the owner or the property manager.
No, and we definitely want to dive into the guest part of this on the next question. So I took some notes to make sure we come back to that, Jim. Those were really good points on how this shows up to the guest and is the guest willing to pay more. But I guess staying on the benefit to the homeowner, maybe we talk more about like the savings, like the 9 to 23% annually. That's pretty significant. And then I think you had mentioned insurance, Buster. Do you want to talk a little bit about that or other comments on this question?
Yeah, so and I think this was what Michael was alluding to as well, as he was saying that you can save on your insurance if you have a noise monitoring, or if you're, because the thing is, like, this is preventing just, a lot of our customers, they inform the guest about the noise monitoring that it exists, and most cases the guest isn't the enemy here. The guest isn't out to cause any trouble, to make it, but so it's good to have that open. I think that's something we haven't touched upon yet today, but I think it's good to have a very transparent and open relationship with technology and your guests. So it's not this like weird thing that's on the wall or that's blinking in the corner, so that they know what to expect too. So I think that's a really important part that we haven't touched upon, but communicating the technology and what it does and how they actually can benefit from it, because a lot of times they really can benefit from it as well. But yeah, then in terms of insurance, preventing damages in the first place by being able to stop a party, for example, before it's even started, or to be able to intervene at those early stages. So I think that was what I was meaning to say before. And insurance companies within the short-term rental industry, of course, they recognize this. And if you have a noise monitoring sensor like a NoiseAware or a Minut, you can earn, or you can get money off your premium. So I think that's a really great way to sort of award people who think about things that might happen.
So Buster, just to clarify too, are you suggesting, regardless maybe of a specific insurance provider's partnership with any of the technology companies, it is worth bringing this to your current provider, and that you may qualify for?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, a lot of times, a lot of times we have calls from people that have insurance from one or another company, and they actually get in touch directly with their insurer, and that's happened a lot of times because noise monitoring is one thing, and the home alarm system is the other, and a lot of times the insurance companies will give you a percentage off your premium, even if they haven't heard about the alarm. You tell them about Minut, and they can do that for you. So definitely worth checking with whoever's insuring your property.
And just even like the water monitoring or water pressure, I mean, all of it, I guess, right? You're suggesting it is worth making sure your insurance company knows what you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
And then, Michael, any last thoughts on this one for NoiseAware?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on what, am I off mute? Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So to piggyback on what Buster said, absolutely. Like, if you're using any smart home tools, take them to your insurance companies. There may be partnerships already set up. There may not be, but I know all three of us on the phone are happy to chat with any insurance company that would be willing to offer discounts for the various tools that we supply. It's a very, very common theme for insurance companies to lower rates for lower risk. It's exactly the game that they're in. I think the one last piece that is important, and we see it quite a lot, I guess it's twofold. First is noise violations are common. Our founder had 15 from the city when we started NoiseAware, just from one check-in. But a single noise violation is going to cost more than probably 2-3x what our system does. So that's a straight line. Our data shows that 1 in every 20 reservations is going to cause enough noise that it could be a neighbor nuisance or a noise event leading to a noise fine or a violation with your city. And then 1 in every 200 reservations is a full-blown party. So if you're a single owner and you're renting out for the first time, statistically speaking, let's say you get 50 reservations a year. Statistically speaking, you won't have a party except every few years, but you're going to have multiple parties that cause enough, or multiple reservations, I should say, that cause enough noise that could be problematic for you in either renting out your home or in noise fines. So there are direct lines, and then to what Buster said, it's very preventative as well. You're stopping the problem before it becomes one, and calculating ROI. Full-blown party. We've seen some of the worst headlines that literally can lead to people dying, and nobody wants that in their rentals. So from small little neighbor complaints all the way up to the extreme, monitoring against proactively monitoring is vital.
No, yeah, that's great.
Heather, can I just add one thing to what Michael said? Because I think also when it comes to accepting guests, you can also, if you have these measures in place, you can spend less time on vetting. I mean, there are a lot of good services and you should always vet guests and make sure you're letting the right people in. But you can use technology to sort of trust people, or at least trust the technology to let you know if there's something. So you don't have to treat every single guest as a suspect, and you can put less time on that process and just more time on focus on the guest experience, which is what a property manager or host or homeowner should do. and then leave the rest up to us.
Yeah,
That's a great segue to the guest part of it. So some of this is kind of about, the merchandising and improving conversion. And the Focusrite study sounds like a great one that you mentioned, Jim, that talks about, how guests are willing to pay more for certain home automation, maybe leave a better review. I did also want to talk about, though, where it could be an issue, like you're telling the guest you have the device in advance, talking about any of the home automation, but maybe on the noise monitoring side. And what happens if the guest finds the device or tries to turn the device off, or, those kinds of things, because you're talking about a piece of hardware in the home that could be tampered with. And if you don't mind talking about that aspect of it as well. So, yeah, so I'll just kind of, here are the questions, but I'll let you kind of take it where you see is best fit. Jim, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, each unit has our cellular hub. That cellular hub needs to be plugged into the wall. It's got battery backup that lasts quite a while. But there's signs all over it, please do not unplug. And usually we advise the owner to place that device in a location where, people are not going to want to play with it. They're not going to want to unplug it to plug in their cell phone charger, etc. Kind of common sense things, and we don't really have too much of an issue there. And talking about that Focusrite survey, there was something else we measured there that said that 42% of renters were likely or very likely, would be likely or very likely to spend $5 to $10 per night for a smart home automation fee. So I think the answer there is yes, that people are willing to pay more for smart home, absolutely.
And then, Michael, do you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of disclosing it, Buster's absolutely right. If you disclose things like noise monitoring in your listing, the people who are there specifically to throw a party are not going to book your home. But people who they might just not realize how loud they're being or how they are, and noise can certainly dissipate. But NoiseAware is a plugged-in device, so you have constant power. There's never any recharging or battery operations needed. And there's two different holes in the device that you screw it into the screw plate. So that provides a pretty good level of tamper resistance in and of itself. And then the last layer that we have, there's actually what's called an accelerometer in the device. So if it moves at all and it's unplugged, then we're going to let the homeowner or the property manager know that it's been tampered with. So I think there's the pre-booking, there's the during booking, and then what happens if
on property
they take a screwdriver, unscrew it, physically unplug it. In 800,000 reservations, we've seen that happen 3 times. So not very common, but it does happen. I guess you have to say it does happen if it's 3 out of 800,000.
No, but it's good to understand, right? And any device you're using, right, from any provider, just a question to ask, like think there, where are you putting it? How is it secure? It's a part of just making sure you're doing that part right also.
Yeah, and the platforms, Airbnb, Booking, Vrbo, they all want you to disclose smart home. Some people live in a neighborhood that they want a camera on the front porch, and a lot of people don't want cameras in rentals at all, right? So even if it's outside, so you have to disclose things like cameras, like noise monitoring, like any other tools that it could be, probably even Alexa or Google, just because everyone knows that they're constantly listening to you, as you heard from my watch earlier. But I think it's multifaceted, but there are, and I know Minut's got similar features in terms of tamper, and I'm sure the PointCentral kit, if you unplug it, they're going to let you know as well. So we've all certainly built that into our thinking.
Michael, staying with you in NoiseAware and Verbo partnership for a minute. You know, we've seen cleaning, merchandising, and tagging being something that's been a big focus, obviously, with COVID-19. But do you have any insight to where you think the merchandising of smart home may go? Would it eventually lead to better page placement on a channel?
I don't think it's going to lead to better placement. What I do think you'll see is, as the industry becomes more and more standardized and the adoption of smart home broadly is well adopted across the board, you're going to see new travelers entering the space. The CEO of Booking.com said a few weeks ago that last year, 20% of their new bookings were in the vacation rental segment, and 40% of their new bookings this year were in the vacation rental segment. So it's double the amount of people that are now trying out rentals for the first time, and they're expecting hotel-like standards because that's what they're used to. So monetizing it essentially it'll be monetization through reviews, and if you don't have the things that make your rental hotel-like, then you're going to get dinged on reviews, and that's going to make you fall in the page rank and certainly affect the amount of bookings you get.
And I think that what you're saying too is, regardless of if there's like specific standardized ways of merchandising smart home, that sounds like all three of you are encouraging that you talk about it in your content descriptions. You know, figuring out ways to let folks know you have it is important wherever you can, and that may evolve as content or amenities evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And things like what Jim's team has is fantastic, and it's a level of service people who've stayed in hotels have never seen before. In a hotel, you stand in line, you get a room key, whether it's card or a physical key, and you stand in line, you wait 5-10 minutes, they swipe your card, and you go up to your room. In short-term rentals, you show up to the door, you've got your code in your pocket, and you type it in. And you know, I've certainly witnessed that. I was in a rental in Florida this weekend, and that was the case, and it's fantastic. And then the flip side is, I was in Lake Como with an industry conference. Buster was there, and I'm sharing a flat with my colleague, and the building or the operator gives us a single key. And I'm a lot older than my colleague, and I like to go to bed earlier. And so we're trying to figure out, like, how do we do the key pass? Do we just like leave it under the doormat, or, does he go back to the flat with me and then I give him the key? And so like now I'm trapped in the apartment. So like you have to enter the 21st century with automation in terms of blocks and access 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure you were able to go to a few of those parties though, right, Michael?
Well, we are the party stopping company,
right.
But we've certainly been
I love how you got that in there. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. Those are good stories and examples of how that plays out for sure. And then we are coming close to time. So Buster, do you want to wrap us up with this one?
Yeah, no, I can just chime in with the others here, but I think so to wrap this up, the whole thing with technology is like it should help you as a property manager or homeowner. But yeah, the communicate, like you can phrase these things in a lot of different ways. And I really like when I was in my last Airbnb, I was in a vacation rental I was in. They were really I think they actually had NoiseAware devices, but the way they phrased it was they said, we care about our neighbors and we have a great relationship with them, and it's part of a great community. We hope you'll enjoy your stay here, and for that reason, we're keen on having the noise levels under a certain level after a certain time. And that's sort of a really nice way to talk about it. It's not like we're here to monitor. Sometimes if you have a party house and that's the type of guest that books that type of, you have groups of guests that come and that they're there to have a good time. Maybe you need to have a harder or tougher approach, but otherwise, yeah, it's all about how you communicate with the guest and around these things.
So There is one question in here. I see you guys respond in chat, which is great. Thanks for doing that as folks were asking questions along the way. But this last question, maybe we can try to answer. Do most of these devices notify the guest as well as the homeowner? Noise, water pressure, etc. Jim, do you want to take that one? Oh, Jim, you're on mute. Sorry.
It's always, for PointCentral, it's always the owner or the property manager, not the guests.
Okay.
So for us, it depends. We can do both.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That it's up to you.
And
Okay.
and same here. Sometimes it's good to give the guest the benefit of the doubt. We are measuring decibel levels. We're not recording anything. Same as NoiseAware. It's completely privacy safe. So when we get a reading, it could be a baby crying. It could be something else. Sending a friendly text message to the guest, giving them the benefit of the doubt. That might de-escalate the situation without any further action from you, which will also mean that you don't have to deal with it, and it would go a lot quicker. So it could be a good first step, but it needs to be like, if that doesn't work, then there's a next step. Then maybe the owner is contacted directly.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like these are operational decisions you can make as what you know about your guests and the options you have. That's great.
And moving it back to the first question, which was tech stack. So depending on what integrations your property management system has, certainly enables different features, I'm sure, with each of our companies.
Well, this is a topic that is only going to intensify, and right from a regulatory perspective, from a guest safety, like you said, the shifting share from hotels. So I think this is an important topic, and we'd love to have you all back again to keep this conversation going. We really appreciate the expert Q&A today. So thanks, Buster, Jim, and Michael for joining us.
Thanks all. Thank you.
See you again soon. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay. Bye now. Thanks.
Bye-bye.